that's when the colors started to change.
Well, I thought I'd play that because it was Australia Day yesterday. Let me move this over. Thank you, Matthew. Matthew gave me an amazing donation there, $20. Woohoo! Wish I could watch live, but I'm at work. This is really a true competitor to the Canon R5, but better in every way. And I'm going to discuss this because I should have started like this. Hang on, wait a minute. Oh my God, what is Sony doing to me? I just thought, wow. I wanted to also show you, I found, funny thing was, guys, this show, by the way, if you do not like me looking, if you do not like to look at specs and me just talking about the specs, switch off, because today it's going to be completely about the specs of this camera. So it's going to be geeky. So we will be going through all the specs, talking about what they are, and things like that. So if you're not into that, it might be better to switch off, because I always get people saying, oh, you're just reading. Well, that's what I'm going to be doing today. So if you don't want to watch that, switch off, guys. But I found this amazing little document this morning. It was emailed to me. I'm just trying to find it. Bear with me just for a second, because it gave a great example against the D6 and also the Canon. But I think it's gone in junk somewhere. Let me just see. Was it in there? Let me just delete these. So bear with me just while I try and find this, because I thought I'd sent it to myself here. I might have done it here. Was that it? No, that's the full press release, which I'll go through. I think it was from Focus Camera. It must have gone into junk. I hate the way things go through junk. There we go. I found it. Let me just check it and see. I think I've got to move it out of there. All right, let me put it there and see if I can find it now. So if I go inboxes, Focus Camera, was it that one? Show up, you think? It's not showing. Oh, hang on. Here we are. I think I've got it. Yeah, I have. All right. So let me open this up because I might just bring up that where it had it. Oh, it had a great article about it. And now I can't find it. I just saw it just before I came online, and it had a great thing about comparing it to. I might just search on my Mac, see if I can find it. Focus focus camera. No, it looks like it's gone. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Let me just check down here. No, it's not there. It was a great combination because what it did, it went right through looking at the D6 and the Canon as well. And basically the Canon, the new Sony blew everything out of the water. It really did blow everything out of the water. And I'm just spewing I can't find it because it looks so good when I was looking at it. I thought, wow, I'd love to show you guys that. Let me just see if I click on that. Does that open it? No, it's only been... Oh, hang on. No, it doesn't. Oh. If I can find it, I'll post the link down below because it's a pity. I would have loved to have showed you against the D6. Now, remember, this camera is more a professional camera, guys, so it is definitely related to that. Let me just open up the chat first because I want to sort of see what people are saying about this. I just want to say hi to everyone before we start. Dave's in here. TMP is also here. What's the price? Well... It's 6,400, I think. 6.5, yeah, United States dollars. It's going to be about 80,000 Australian dollars. I think it's going to be. I would think. My guess. I wouldn't be surprised if it's somewhere around 9,000 Australian dollars. I think it's way too expensive for what I'd want to be buying. But God, Sony, fantastic! Look, I'm so happy they've done this. This might be something I look at next year or something like that, but it's certainly not for me this year. I couldn't justify it, but my God, it's unbelievable. It's awesome. So 6,500. Now that does sound like an awful lot of money, guys, but when I go through the specs, you're going to understand that it's worth every cent really, or every dollar that they're asking for this camera. It really is that good. So I think it's definitely worth it if you have the money or if you're in the market to get a new A9 III. This is a replacement, I think, for the A9 III, and I'll talk all about these as we go. The A9 II, I mean. I will talk about that as we're going down. It's just that they think they've changed the naming convention. Only downside, you can't cook a 3-course meal on it while recording in 8K. I love it. What else have we got here? Bodily organs enough to fund the A1. Like a lot of people are saying, maybe sell my car. Rupert says, g'day Rupert, I'm removing one of my kidneys and deciding which of my children to sell. Roy said, I thought about getting divorced was expensive. Sony did it, David. 50 megapixel stacked full frame sensor. Oh no, that's just a start. Wait till I start going through all these specs. It's unreal. I'm waiting for the A1 too. Michael said he's already pre-ordered one. I don't blame you, Michael. If you got the money, boy, I'll be getting it too. Mick said, Australian, time to sell both the A9 and the A7S III. Well, I can't really, Mick. That's the problem for me because I need both cameras. So let me just sort of explain too that the reason why at this stage I don't need it because I'm so happy with the A7S III. I'm talking to you now from 2 cameras. The A9 for me is still an incredible camera that I love, absolutely adore for weddings and things like that. And the A7S III with that combination now has given me everything I needed. But if you only wanted to do it from all one camera, the new A1 is it. It really is. Gilbert, I've just pre-ordered 2 of the Sonys. Sony is coming with guns, but they certainly are, Michael. Guns blazing. Chris is also saying, hello, David. Cool day in Los Angeles. The new Alpha A1 is amazing. Yeah, it's only, 10 a.m. in the morning here. Michael said, Gilbert, you should have sold the house and the car. I'm just going to go right through these now because I want to get stuck into what's going on. Tickon said, hopefully, David, you won't be living in a tent after this. You're going to laugh. Kerry came in this morning and said, David, do not. I'm not kidding you. That's what she said just before she went to work this morning. I laughed. I thought that was a classic. Oh, my God. I just laughed at it. Thanks so much, Matthew, for the donation. I really appreciate that, mate. I'll sure you'll be watching this later. This very moment, David's wife has put a hold on the credit cards. I know, laugh out loud. All right, so let's get started anyway. We've got so many sort of people just saying hello and all that, and I started late because I had an issue with Wirecast. There was an update and it caused a couple of problems, but it signed me out of YouTube. But anyway, I'm back on. So this morning, I suppose I don't know what time it was in the US, probably 2 p.m. or something like that. Sony announced the new A1 camera. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here because I think looking at it, I do believe this is the new A9 and it's the new, well, instead of going to the A9 III, they've decided to change their naming convention and it's become the A1. But for the first time, they've really transformed the Sony A9 into a real sort of powerful fusion camera, which really does everything that you would ever ask. And in fact, there's not much really that you can improve on it. There's a couple of things, and I'll talk about that as we go through it. But if you were after a camera that could basically do everything, and I mean almost everything, that you can't beat this camera. There's nothing in the marketplace. Yes, it's way more expensive than the Canon offerings, but I'm sure when Canon bring out a camera to compete with this, they'll probably be very similarly priced. But basically, Sony has blown Nikon and Canon out of the water in the sports camera marketplace if you're dealing with, or even wildlife photography, with what they're going to produce with this camera. Because when you start looking at the specs, it's just extraordinary what they've been able to put into this body, is particularly that they haven't made the body larger. So the body itself, I mean, it's exactly the same. Well, it looks exactly the same as the R4. Let me just move this over and then I'll just have to remember to move it back again. There's screen capture. So this is the body that they're showing here. Let me just update this window. So this is it here. So it's basically just like an R4, except for you've got the extra dial. Now that's the great thing about the A9 cameras, is you have the extra dial there, which I absolutely adore. It's great for changing your focusing modes and things like that. And in fact, I'm always looking for it on my other cameras. I just wish all the Sony cameras have that, but they're limiting that to the Sony, the A9 or the A1 versions. So if you look at it, it looks very, very similar to what the R4 is. This is just a new thing that I'll talk about later on with the Sony phones that are coming out. But it's looks really, really nice. So you've got the better buttons than the previous A1. It's similar to what the A9 II is, in fact. But it looks like it's a really nice body. And I actually like that body now that I'm used to the A7S III. Originally, I thought the A7S III body was a little bit bigger, too sort of a bit clunky for me, and I preferred the A7 III and the A9. But now that I've been using the A7S III so much, I like that body shape and I love the buttons particularly. So that's what's coming out. But it's more the specs of this camera that are just nuts. This is sort of like what they did with the A7 III. When they had the A7 III release, the A7 III release blew everything out of the water. Now, Sony have done that this time with the this A1. They really have. And in fact, what they've done is they've got the A7R4, they've got the A9, and they've got the A7S III basically combined into the one camera. That's what they've done here. And that's what's blown me away. I seriously, I mean, I did a discussion just the other day to talk about this camera, and I thought there's no way they would, I did believe it would be 8K, but there was no way I thought they'd put 4K 120 in there. There's no way that I thought they'd put the bit depths that they've put in there and things like that. Like, it really is outstanding what they've done with this camera. And like I said, if you were after a one camera that could do it all, this is incredible. For me personally, I just can't afford it. There's no way I can justify spending that sort of money at this stage. You know, $9,000, it might even be 10 here, who knows, but that much money here is just too much money here at the moment with how the marketplace is. Not, you know, I'm not going to do it. I can tell you, I am not pre-ordering this one. Kerry would definitely divorce me if I did that. But who knows, next year I might be able to get it. But I'm so happy that Sony have done this, because this is a brilliant camera, and if I had the money, I would buy this in a heartbeat. I really would. It is just that good. So what we're going to do now, we're going to geek out because I'm going to take you through all the specs. So if you're not into this sort of thing, guys, switch off, because I'm going to go through all the official Sony press release. We're going to talk about what the specifications are, and it's going to be really pretty geeky. So if you're not into that, like I said, you might want to turn off. So what I've got here is, let me just move this back over now so that we'll get the specs so I can show you what we've got. So I've got to switch out and then come back again. Let me just have my Milo drink. Happy Australia Day to everyone yesterday too, by the way, guys. All right, so this is the Sony press release. So this is the official Sony press release. So this will have all of the specifications that the camera will have. Like I said, it's not designed to be graphical or anything like that. It's just designed to give you the specifications that this has. And I will come back to the chat later on, guys, so you can sort of keep talking to yourselves and stuff like that. But I will be talking about it. So what they've done here, they've brought in a 50 megapixel sensor. So they haven't given what the A7 R4 has. So we haven't got the 60 odd megapixel. They've only given 50. I shouldn't just say only 50 because it's 50 is still fantastic. But they've given this new 50 megapixel sensor. And it's obviously a brand new sensor with this Bionx XR imaging processing engine. Now, that's giving you the ability to have blackout-free continuous shooting up to 30 frames per second. So what they've done is they've upped the frames per second from the A9 and the A9 II, which is 20 frames per second, and they've gone up to now 30 frames per second. That's using the silent shutter and shooting JPEG, I think. I don't think it's using shooting RAW. But still, it's 30 frames per second, which is incredible. And I would expect, because of the improvements that they made in the A9 II, with the JPEG color, this is going to be even better. So I would expect, like I said, I posted the A7S III still images not long ago. I did a review where I just shot stills, and the image that I was getting in JPEG, and that was the best that I'd ever seen. It really was absolutely stunning. So I'm sure they've got that same color processing in the new the A1. I keep going A9 III, but in the new A1. So I would say the JPEGs are going to be superb in this. And in fact, the A7S III is so good in that regards that I often like to just shoot JPEGs if I'm using it as a stills camera and just use the JPEGs because they're so good straight out of camera. So I think you're going to find that this will be exactly the same. The other thing too is it's now got the faster sensor readout. Now this is nuts because it's 120 AF calculations per second. So that is double what we had with the A9 II and the A9. I don't know how they've done that. That is a massive leap. To say that they could double that is incredible, and it really is. So if you're after, say, tracking birds in flight or doing sports, things like that, this is going to be unbelievable. It's not something that probably I would use much. I suppose dancers I could use it that were running and jumping and things, but if you were into that type of shooting, I would expect that the autofocus in this is going to blow anything out of the water. It is going to be incredible. And that's even during when you're recording 30 frames per second continuous shooting. It's got the bright 9.4 million dot EVF, which is fantastic, electronic EVF. And like I said, if you've got the A7S III, you understand what that's like. It's beautiful if you look through that. This is the one downer though. They've got that basically, look, it might be the same as the A7S III. I found the A7S III back screen is definitely better than the other Sony cameras that I've used. They've done something in it that's made an improvement, but it's only 1.4 million dots, whereas the Canon and the Nikon are 2.4 million. There's a unbelievable difference between what Sony are doing with their screens at the back, the LCD, than what the opposition are doing, or the competition are doing. And I don't know why Sony haven't updated that. I really don't understand, especially with the money you're paying for this. This should have had the new screen. This is one of the only downsides I can see with this camera. It is a fold-up screen, and I think that's fine. And I said in the live that I did on Saturday that I think the fold-out screen is a better option for a camera like this, and that's because this is more of a sports type camera that is meant to be very, very robust. I know, look, you could open it and then close it, but I can understand Sony keeping that difference there. If this is going to be, like I said, a sports type camera or a wildlife camera, there are advantages to having the screen like it is, the way you can sort of fold it down and fold it up, or if you're working really low and things like that, you don't have to open the camera out. It is a weakness if you open it up. If you're working very, very fast, there is a potential that you could break that screen. So I can understand Sony doing this with a high-end type sports camera, that they're not going to give you the flip-out screen. But you can talk about that in the live chat whether you agree with that or not. But it is a disappointment that they've put that, well, basically it's older technology in that screen. That's the only thing that's really a disappointment. So they're also saying it's got the silent vibration-free electronic shutter, the world's first anti-flicker shooting with both mechanical and electronic shutter. So, and I believe it's an automatic, looks automatically for the frequency. So it'll do it between 100 and 120th, and it'll set your shutter speed and everything up to suit that. Now this is incredible. I don't know how they've done this. Now what they've done here is they've given you flash. And this really is groundbreaking. They've given you flash with the electronic shutter. Now you can do 1/200th of a second for the first time. Now also, and I'll just talk to you about this in a minute as well. Also though, if you look here, they've given you the flash sync up to 1/400th of a second as well. So this is absolutely groundbreaking. I use the A9 extensively in my weddings and things like that, and I do a lot of daylight, natural light type work. But then when I want to go and shoot, say with a flash, I have to remember to turn it off mechanical. You can leave it on auto, but I don't like to leave it on auto. I like to have control where it will sort of switch if you put a flash on. But I then have to remember to switch it back. But it is a nuisance because I do like to be shooting with the electronic shutter all the time. I don't really use mechanical shutter at all, and yes, unless I'm using flash. Now, having up to 1/200th of a second means really I would never have to use a mechanical shutter at all. And I'm not sure, they don't say what shutter speed or how many frames per second you can get on that. That'll be interesting, whether it is the 30 frames per second or whether it drops it back. I suppose you'd be limited to what your flashes could produce. I mean, I use Photo and they will definitely keep up with 10, 15 frames per second. They're pretty close to even 20. But I believe that's what you can do with them. But if you can now shoot the electronic shutter or flash speed, it means you no longer have to change to mechanical. So this is brilliant, and I don't know how they've done it because no one else has been able to do this. And it's fantastic. The other thing too is they've given you 400th of a second in your mechanical flash. Now, Sony cameras normally are linked to 250th. 1/250th. So that is a huge improvement if you wanted to shoot outside under brighter light conditions and things like that, or even to, well, it doesn't really stop the motion anymore because your flash is the thing that stops the motion. But to have that ability to be able to use your mechanical flash up to 1/400th of a second before you go to HSS, your high-speed sync, is amazing. I mean, that used to sort of be the things that you would end up going global shutter and things like this, that you didn't have these issues that you had before. It's almost like it's getting to the point now where you don't need global shutter anymore. There's no rolling shutter in this. Look, there's no rolling shutter in the A9 and the A9 II, and they're saying that this is 1.5 times better in rolling shutter. Well, not only have you got that, you've got 1/200th of a second in electronic flash. No one else gives you that option at all, where you can shoot flash on the electronic shutter, and your shutter speed now has gone up to 1/400th. Brilliant, because then your flash has to work less hard. It's fantastic, because the second you go into HSS, you then lose the power of your strobe. So that, I just don't know how they've done all this. It blows me away. I couldn't believe it when I was reading these specs this morning. 8K 430p. Now it's only 420, but look, I don't think that's an issue at all. It's still 10-bit though, so I'm surprised. I thought they might have even had this at 8-bit, but it's 10-bit, which I think is fantastic. So it's only 420, yes, but from my testing, honestly, really, you don't know, the average user would not know the difference of 420 as against 422. Yes, 422 is definitely better, but 420, I'm still amazed that you can get this internal. And it will do RAW if you're going out to external recording as well. I don't think it does 8K though. I think it's just 4K. Well, I'll have to check that. I'm not sure. So it's saying here too that it's also oversampled from 8.6K. So it'll even be better because it's oversampling down to 8K. And it will also do, excuse me, it'll also do 4K 120, 10-bit 422. Now, there is a crop on that though, so it's not like using the A7S III. There is it becomes a 35mm. In other words, it's a super 35mm crop. So I suppose that's an issue if you wanted to keep it full frame. But it's still amazing that they can give us that in a camera that can do it all. And this is the amazing thing. I'm personally not even interested at 8K. I mean, look, there'd be things I would love to try. I would love to try and get to shoot 8K and then grab stills from it and just sort of see what type of result you could get. I mean, that would be brilliant. I'd love to try that because what do you get, a 30-odd megapixel still size? So it's actually very, very usable. And because this has so much rolling shutter or so little rolling shutter, it will work fantastic in that regard. And in fact, I've pulled stills off my A9, even though they were only 12 megapixels and they look brilliant. And I've showed those before. Well, imagine what you're going to be able to do with 8K. It's going to be unbelievable. So I would like to try that. A bit hoarse this morning. But the issue is too, you will have to up your shutter speed. So remember, if you're shooting, say at doubling your shutter speed. So say for instance, if you were shooting 8K 30p, you would then normally shoot at 1/60th. Well, 1/60th, you may get movement in images. You will have to up your shutter speed. But I often crank the shutter speed up if I'm not using NDs anyway, and most people could never even tell the difference. So if you did want to crank your shutter speed up, you would have a 36 megapixel still file that you could grab from these 8K files, which is amazing. And I'd love to try that. I think that would be fantastic. And being 10-bit, you're also going to have an awful lot of grading ability that you'll have from that as well. Like I've done that with 8-bit Sony A9 files. Imagine 8K 10-bit. I know it's 420, but it's still 10-bit files. Unbelievable. And like I said, you've got 4K 120, but it's with a super 35mm crop. What else? Wide dynamic range of 15 stops for stills and 15 stops for video. Incredible. Improved real-time IAF. Now, they've done it with eyes this time for animals. So what they've done here is they've given IAF on birds in flight and things like that. So they've improved the animal IAF on this compared to what we've had on all the other cameras. Yes, they could probably add that onto the A9 II and the A9 and all the A7R4 and everything, but they probably won't, but they could. But to have that ability to grab the eye tracking, I know wildlife photographers and stuff like that have been saying they'd love to have that ability to, photograph birds and things like that and have the IAF work. Well, this will work brilliantly. Particularly with that better autofocus. The real-time tracking on this, if this is 120 frames per second like they're saying, I mean, honestly, or calculating 120 times per second. What else are they saying? So they're saying tracking that automatically maintains accurate focus, and I think this will be outstanding because if this is going to be better than the A9 II, it is going to be unbelievable. 5-axis in-body stabilization, so it gives you 5.5 steps. So it doesn't quite beat the Canon, but because the Canon is around 8, I think. But looking at the footage, I'm still not convinced that I don't really like the Canon because it always seems to have that shuttering or in the background. And I don't know if they've fixed that completely, but I think 5.5 stops, particularly now that it's got the active tracking in it, or the active stabilization, I should say, is ample. I mean, I can handhold the A7S III and it's brilliant. So you're going to be able to do that on this as well. If you have that in combination with a stabilized lens, it's going to be outstanding and you could easily handhold it. This is a real doozy, and I'm hoping they bring this out for the A7S III because this has even put a step up. It's got S-Cinetone. which at this stage is only in the FX9 and the FX6. So that is such a great thing that they've done this here. And please, Sony, give us that on the A7S III. The A7S III is meant to be the pinnacle in video. Well, I'm hoping that they'll give us that in the firmware update. They have hinted about that, but whether we get that or not, I don't know. But I'm hoping we do, because that is a beautiful color profile with very little grading that's needed. And then in the Wi-Fi component, it's got USB 10 gigabit bits per second. It's USB 3.2, the connection on there, and it's got 100 base T Ethernet. Now, I'm just going to look down here and stop at things that I find that is interesting. So there is 120 AEF calculations per second in this. Like I said, it's double what we're getting with the A9. Let me just keep coming down here. I'm just looking at the bit recordings here too. It says here that the Alpha A1 is also capable of 4K 120 60p at 10-bit 422. So it will do 4K 60 at 10-bit 422. Now that's all you need. I mean, I would be happy if the camera just had that. But to also have the 4K 120, yes, with a Super 35 crop. I don't see them mentioning that much, but I did read that this morning. It's got a Super 30. It's got a crop factor on it. It's got pack features. Now I might change over to the B&H one, because I think it's going to be a bit easier to go through the specifications. Let me just check down here. Where was B&H? Oh, here, actually. All right, let me go to specifications. All right, this might be easier to actually look at. So what we've got this full frame. It's 1x crop factor, so you can do the Super 35. The aspect ratio, you're going to be able to do 1:1. Now that's handy, because if you're shooting for Instagram and things like that, it's nice to be able to shoot 1:1. So that could be something that you do. The sensor type is CMOS. I think this was where too that I read about the shutter speeds and stuff. Now JPEG, this is really good. This HEIF is an incredible format. If you use that with the A7S III, the extra dynamic range you get is amazing. It really is. If you compare that to JPEG, it's so good. I can't wait for when that becomes a standard, because not only do you get better compression, but you get much, much better color. It really is fantastic. So that's going to be the future. You know, I can see JPEG just sort of disappearing eventually and HEIF becoming the standard. The bit depth is 14-bit. I'm just going to come down here too. Now this is also important too, because you've got 1/8,000th of a second to 30 seconds in mechanical shutter, but the electronic shutter keeps the 1/32,000th of a second. Now that is one of the things I love about the A9, because I can take it out in daylight and shoot wide open and have 1/32,000th of a second. And I love that. Like if you have, say, the 135 1.8, and you're on a nice bright sunny day and you still want to get that beautiful bokeh without having to put an ND filter on, because it does become an issue if you want to start using NDs. It's much easier if you can just crank that shutter speed up. Well, you've got 1/32,000th of a second here that you can use. So that is really good, and that stayed in. This is why I'm saying this really is an A9 III with the other cameras included in it. What else? You can go 1/8,000th to 1/4 of a second in movie mode. There's nothing else there that is interesting. Now, the exposure compensation is -5 to +5, which is good. The metering range is -3 to 20 EV. I'm just coming down here to check too. Now, this is interesting because this will go through the electronic shutter. So the continuous shooting up to 30 frames per second at 50.1 megapixel. Now you can do 155 frames of RAW before the buffer will basically fill. And you can do 165 frames of JPEG. Now that's because that would be using the CF Express A cards, because that's now what's included in this camera now. So I would think that even though it's saying that's the amount you can shoot, I would think the buffer is going to clear an awful lot faster. Even like the A9 II, that was still an issue. If you did press down on the shutter button, you would fill up and you did have to wait for that to sort of clear. Well, I would think using CFA Express A, you're not going to have an issue with that. Up to 20 frames per second at 50.1 megapixels. That's shooting RAW, and 400 frames of JPEG. I'm just looking down here at the mechanical shutter, up to 10 frames per second, and that's fine. I never really use over 10 frames per second on mechanical anyway. And look, I think if you've got the A9 or this camera, you'd be using an electronic shutter if you're shooting that way anyway, so it's not going to be an issue. 10 frames per second is ample if you had to use flash, but remember now you can use flash in the electronic shutter, so it's really not going to be an issue. I could see the point where you're really not going to use mechanical shutter at all. The only time you might is if you're worried about banding, which you're not going to get in this camera much at all. I have never seen it on my A9. I know some people have said they have, but I haven't. Let's look at the video codecs down here. It will do H.265. It's basically very similar to what the A7S III has. That will work on all these different formats, up to 119, which is your 120. And you can also go up to 280 megabits per second. If you're doing H.265 XAVC, it will do 200 to 400 megabits per second. So I think it doesn't match the A7S because the A7S III I think goes up to 600 from memory, if I can remember correctly. Someone might be able to point that out if I'm wrong there though. So you've got H.265 XAVC, you've got H.265HS, H.264 XAVC SI. That's the easiest one to edit if you haven't got one of the new Apple M1 Max. That will sort of edit on most computers. If you haven't got that, these will only edit on something like the new M1 successfully. You've also got XAVC 422 10-bit, H.264 XAVC 420 8-bit as well. So you really have a great range of codecs that you can switch over here. External recording mode, so they have given you RAW 16-bit as well. So you can record in RAW 16-bit, which is fantastic, but you need something like a Ninja V to do that. It looks like you can go up to 60p. Oh, that's, 4.2K, yep. 4220 is 10-bit, and it shows all the formats that you can do. I'll put this link down below so you can read this as well. So you've got, the main thing is that people that wanted the raw 16-bit, you can do it. Recording limit is unlimited. That would be if you want to go out to something like the Ninja. The 4K 60 is probably unlimited. I haven't sort of read that anywhere, but I think the 8K is limited to 30 minutes. Now, if you can do 30 minutes without overheating at all, and that's what Sony are claiming, they've already blown Canon out of the water because Canon has had issues the whole time. What else? Is there anything else that we need to look at there? Webcam functionality, yes, you're going to be able to use. Autofocus sensitivity is good. You're getting -4 here to +20, so that's terrific as well. -4 is shooting in fairly dark conditions. Like I said, the viewfinder is brilliant. It's the 9 million dot viewfinder. Like I said, the monitor sucks. I mean, it does. Look, if you compare it to what the opposition have got out there, the competition, it sucks. I don't understand why Sony haven't replaced that. That's the only thing really that I can complain about with this camera, though. Everything else is just amazing. Maximum sync speed, like I said, is 1/400th. They've got some voodoo magic going on there because I don't think there's anyone else has offered that anywhere. Your flash compensation is -3 to +3. Interface, it's great. Once you've used this, I am using CF Express Type A in my A7S III, and I love them. They're expensive and they're hard to get at the moment, but I would recommend if you're going to get the A9, I would definitely say try to factor in the CF Express Type A because it will clear your buffer quicker, and it will definitely be the only way that you're going to be able to do the 4K high-res ones like some of those XAVC-S and things like that. And also, I suppose, if you're doing 8K, it'll be forcing you to use CF Express Type A. If you use a high-end codecs, you'd have to use it as well, and it will definitely clear the buffer quicker if you wanted to do that as well. GPS, no, they haven't got a GPS. You'd have to use your phone. Pity they couldn't have added that in, but I suppose it would have made the body larger. And that's about it for those. So The other thing too is they've released a camera. Like I said, I showed it here. Where was it that I showed that? Let me just scroll down to see. They've released this, a new Sony, I think it's a Sony phone, or I think that's what it is. I didn't even look at the thing. I just read about the camera this morning, but I believe you can stream live through this and use it as a monitor. The only issue is that it's the small HDMI output port, which is a bummer. But the advantage in the camera itself, the A9, it does have the large HDMI, which is brilliant, because I used to break those leads all the time. I would snap them. They'd bend at the join with the mini HDMI, so they're a pain. So to have full HDMI on this camera is great, because if you're using it for something like a Ninja V or something like that, you can use full HDMI out, and that's great as well. Battery life, they're saying you get around about 530 shots on the charge, but don't believe that at all. I'm usually getting around about 1,000 to 2,000. It depends on how you're shooting. If you're shooting electronic shutter, you'll get way more exposures. So the 530, I would say you're going to get way better than that. Now the processor though may be more. It might use more battery than what, say, the A9 II does, because remember the A7S III. I've found that with the A7S III, I tend to use about, well, where I used to use one battery, I'd now use two. So it's basically half the battery life due to that processor that's built in it. So I suppose that the processor in this is probably going to do a very similar thing. So I would think that you're going to lose some battery life as well. But that, like I said, that's going to have to be seen at this stage. Yeah, the phone is $2,500. It's an Xperia Pro smartphone. And they're saying it will double as a HDR monitor and 5G transmitter. Pretty cool though. Price, like I said, in the US is starting at $6,498 for the body, which is $3,000 more than the Canon EOS R5. And I'm just spewing that I couldn't show you that the difference between the Canon and the Nikon against this, because honestly, once you sort of see the differences, you'd think, well, you can see where the money is definitely being spent. They're saying shipping is meant to be late February with availability sometime in March. So I'm pretty blown away, to be totally honest. It really is outstanding. And I think I have to congratulate Sony with this. It really is a great release. Now, like I said, it's not one that I'm going to buy at this stage. Who knows? Let's say next year I might, and by then they'll probably have come down in Australia anyway. But I paid, I think, around $7,000 when the A9 was released. That was 7,000 Australian dollars here. I've got a feeling this one will probably around about the 9. So it's just too much for me at this stage. But if you're after a camera that would give you the ability to shoot anything in video and also stills, you can't go past this. So if you wanted one camera that would give it all to you, this is definitely the camera. Let's just go to the chat and just see what people are saying, and if there's anyone got questions or anything like that. They should have named it the N10 after the warplane. What else have we got? David pulled the trigger too soon on getting the A7S III. No, I'm still happy I got that, Michael. That was only, what, 5,000 here Australian. There's a big difference. Plus, I needed a video camera. If you were just going to buy a video camera, I would still recommend the A7S III. Because it's got the flip out screen. So if I was now still purchasing the camera and I wanted what I was after at that time, even now I would still buy the A7S III before I bought the A1. Because for me personally, I want the fold out screen and the video camera side of things. Now I can totally understand why they haven't done that for this camera, because it's more of a type of fusion sports orientated. This will be marketed as the ultimate sports type camera or wildlife camera that Sony sells. So they're not trying to say this is, even though it's got 8K, they're not trying to say that this is replacing the A7S III, I don't think anyway. That's why they've sort of separated that side of it. So I think I would have still bought the A7S III over this camera at this stage, because I'm still so happy with my A9. So it's just the way, I will be. And I can't afford to sort of have just the one camera. I would need to buy two A1s if that was the case. And there's no way I can spend 20 grand on getting two of these cameras. So I would still be, say, using my A9 and the A7S III. So I would still be buying the A7S III. Guy with the camera said, I'm getting the A1 for sure in 2024. David's going to need to buy the flower shop for this. I love it. Let me keep coming down. I'm sure you're having problems. She's going off right now talking about a 6K camera. Yeah, it's a lot more than 6K here, Michael. What else have we got? His wife is chasing him. Like I told you what she said, David. David, don't. I love it. I just laughed. And people will still complain that it doesn't have a flippy screen. Well, they will. I said, I've got no problem at all, Dave, about this not having that flippy screen. At all. What else have we got? Kerry has one less high heel shoe and David has one more black eye. I hate Sony already for including S-Cinetone in that camera, but not in my A7S III. I know. But John, I'm hoping that Sony give it to us. I've got a feeling that they will. I think they'll probably do it as an update down the track. I wouldn't be surprised at all. And I did hear rumblings about that. So if you are listening to this, Sony, please give us the S-Cinetone in the A7S III. John's saying wake up alarm at 6 a.m. David,
your
just
alarm is set for
shush.
6 a.m. tomorrow.
Oh, it's an alarm, stupid thing. I better change that because I don't want to wake up and I'll do it in a minute. Isn't that funny? It just set the alarm. Oh, it'll do it again. South Coast Media said 6.5K in the UK. That works out to 8,925 United States dollars. I might have to sit this one out for a bit. And like I'm the same. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to get it. It just might mean that I get it a little bit further down the line. And I'm happy with that. I'm happy with what I've got. Like I said, I still love my A9 and I absolutely adore the A7S III. So I'm really happy with what I've got. Bludgeoned him to death. I'm just laughing at all the comments. This was before I even started this morning. Where else are we? So let me come down here. So fire away if you have any questions coming up. Anyway, hi Panda, how are you? The new Canon update helped out a bunch, but it still doesn't have heat sinks. That's a problem. It hasn't. Whereas this, if you look at the way it's built, it does have heat sinks all built inside. So it definitely has that. Christian said 30 frames per second is compressed, 12-bit RAW, not uncompressed. Yeah, but I use compressed anyway, Christian, and I've never, ever seen a problem with it. So I wouldn't have an issue with that. I've shoot 12-bit RAW all the time, and it's fine. And it's only pixel peepers that would ever notice that difference. The NFL is using the Sony A7R4 in the end zone. Maybe they should get this now. Well, they probably would, buddy, I would say. Do you 100% agree? The stack sensor usually means a drop in ISO performance. So this is singular area that could be compromised. Well, from what I've been reading, the noise is improved over the A7R4. So if that's the case, if they have improved the noise, it will be, and it's better than the A7R4. The A7R4 is about one stop worse than the A7S3 or the A7 III, I mean. So... And you can use it, but you do have to be a little bit more careful with your exposure with the A7R4, definitely than the A7 III. But it's certainly not what you call unusable, and it's actually very, very good, in fact. It's just that you have to be aware that there is noise there. I would be more wary about underexposing with an A7R4 than, say, with the A7 III. But I think you'll probably find that they've improved the raw low noise output in this anyway. Remember, you're 10 megapixels better or lower in resolution, which means, your photo sites are going to be larger. So I think you're going to find that this might be better in low light than what you actually think. So it'll be interesting to see. The other thing too is they're saying that the stack sensor is 1.2 or 5 times better than what the A9 is. Whether you'll ever see that in real life, I don't know, because the A9 basically stops everything dead anyway. But they're saying that this has improved the rolling shutter even against the A9, so it must be incredible. So if even like for video, you find the A7S III is brilliant for rolling shutter in video. So it's going to be interesting to see what this is like as well. What else have we got? But if it's as good as the A9, I'm okay with that. And I think it probably will be, Jimmy. But, you know, like I said, I haven't used it yet. If I do get one, I would certainly test that out, that's for sure. It can only shoot 10 frames per second mechanical, no 8K RAW, heat limits, 8K pixel bin, 4K. No full frame 4K HQ mode. So what the heaven is the innovation here? It seems like overpriced R5. I don't agree with that at all, Shinzi. No Santa hat. I know I was thinking about it, but I was in a rush to get up this morning and have breakfast and do all this and then get out to you guys so I could talk to you about it. I didn't see that it was binned at all. So I don't know about that at all. I don't think it would be. It's down sample from 8.6K anyway, isn't it? I'm just hoping that the A7 IV to be released is 6,500. That's going to be interesting to see what they have for that for sure. Kid's birthday and Christmas cancelled for a couple of years. I love it. 5.6K over sampled, not binned. Yeah, it's not binned at all. Hope Sony can give us a bird's eye AF on the A7R4. Well, they may, Tim. They might give that as a firmware upgrade, but who knows? I mean, they really should look after the current cameras, that's for sure. The A9 and the A7S III still sounds like pretty recent models. If gear does still what you need it to do, there is no need to upgrade. Yeah, exactly, Joris, and that's how I'm feeling at the moment. Certainly, though, like I said, if it will get to the point where I'll need to upgrade my A9, this would be a camera I will be getting because I definitely need the features that the A9 gives me. For some of the shots that I do, like the dancing and things like that, I like to have that fast frame rate. So eventually down the track, I will get an A9, the A1 for certain. Probably sometime next year though. I'm seeing available in March. For 6,498. I went to bed hoping for a budget alternative to the R5. I woke to a world of where the R5 is the budget alternative, I know. Full frame binned 4K 60 downsample, 4K in crop mode. Rob said, the important thing about today's announcement might not be what the A1 has in new tech, but what the tech from the A1 migrates down to the next camera. The A7 IV, I do think, is going to be incredible. Just wait for that camera to be announced, guys. If they don't release the the A7 IV until the end of this year, that camera is going to be unbelievable. Think I might buy this to take photos of my dog. I love it. I shot golf balls and hockey with the A9 electronic shutter. Never saw any rolling issues. No, there isn't any rolling shutter issues. They're just saying they've improved it, Jimmy, but I don't think you're even going to be able to see it. Look, it's easy to come up with figures that say it's 1.5 times better, but the A9 is already so good that I don't think you'll visually be able to see it. So I don't think that's going to be anything at all. Guy with the camera of the year, 1.5 better than the A9 equals 1/240th of a readout. This is 1 times faster. Yeah, I don't think you'll notice it. I mean, the A9 is brilliant anyway. Sony, sorry, I didn't catch the announcement. Did they say there was a new lens lineup? No, they didn't actually. I haven't even seen the announcement yet. I've just read the specs, that's all. Oh, there you go. Ted's Australia. Oh, Ted's Australia showing $9,999.95. There you go, guys. $10,000 Australian. No way. No way. Not at this stage. I'll be waiting. No new lenses announced. Guy with the camera said, visuals, no curve sensor. That rumor was false. Yeah, it was, wasn't it? I never sort of stated about that rumor, actually. Will this be the one that gets my pics in focus? I love it. He will have an A1 by April. Axeman, I can promise you. Look at me. I will not be getting this camera release. I will not get this camera this year. Well, unless my A9 breaks. I would be getting it. Look, I do want it. I'm not lying. I would love it. So I'm not going to lie to you. I just can't afford it. I can't afford $10,000 at this stage here in Australia with what's happened with weddings and stuff. I mean, they're only just starting to pick up again. I need to get more into my bank account again before I even think about doing that. Remember, I'm running a business. I have to stay sensible. So when is Sony coming with a Prodigy? So it's 10 grand. Yeah, it'll be next year for me. It'll probably be around about 8 or 7 by then, with a bit of luck. What else? David, I like the beard. Thanks, Kelb. Thank you very much. Shinji said, in full frame 4K, it is pixel binned, 6K oversampled only in crop mode. Like I said, I'm going to have to sort of get a look at this just to find out exactly how this all works as well. Will it be hard to keep in stock though? It'll probably be, well, you know what? The interesting thing is at this price, I don't know. I really don't know if this is going to sell in the bucket loads. And I don't think Sony probably planned that anyway. I think it will sell well. I do really think it will sell well because it's just such an innovative camera. And like I said, if I was in the marketplace for a camera that did it all, there is no better camera than this. I could certainly really get rid of the A7S III and my A9 and buy this to replace both of them. But I need both because I want to be shooting, say, with the A7S on a gimbal at a wedding and shoot stills on the A9 at the same time. So I can't do that. But if you could get away with using just one camera, definitely. What else? So I don't know. Look, if you definitely want to get it, I would probably pre-order it because it might be hard to get for a while. Sony has many pro bodies. They certainly do, Langston. Michael said the new Sony A1 is the A7S, the A7R, and the A9 II, and possibly an FX Cinema camera all in one. It is. That's what I'm saying. The price is not that bad for what they're offering. Definitely, Michael. For what you're getting on that camera, it is incredible. Like, nothing can touch this. There's innovations in this camera that no one can touch. Having it that you can shoot silent shutter up to 30 frames per second. You can shoot flash up to 1/200th in electronic shutter. You can shoot flash at 1/400th of a second. You can shoot 1/32,000th of a second as well in electronic shutter. It's got 8K. It's got RAW output. There's nothing that can touch this camera. The autofocus will be untouchable. There will be nothing out there that will autofocus like what this camera can do. It's also now got the CF Express cards as well. I mean, it's also got amazing network capability features as well. I mean, I'll see if I can. Did B&H show those? Let me just come back to just see if they showed the pictures. Yeah, let me just bring this back. Let's have a look at some of the pics in here. So this is the back, obviously, of the camera. Like I said, it looks very, very similar to the A7R4, except for you've got the extra dial. That's the difference. This is blank on the A7R4. The fold-out rear screen is exactly the same as what you've got with the A7R4. And like I said, I've got no issues with that at all. I mean, I think it's absolutely terrific. Guys, too, if you are watching, I'd really appreciate it, too, if you could do a share, like the... give me a thumbs up because it does make a difference to my channel, seeing I'm unsponsored and stuff. Yeah, so that screen is great. I mean, if you want to shoot up high, if you want to shoot low, it's terrific. They are stronger. Like I said, there's no weak point about it folding out. And I think I did say that in my live last week. I actually said there that I thought this would be how they would do this camera. They would keep the screen as a fold-up, fold-down screen. I think the A7 IV will have a fold-out screen, though. I think that will take off from what they've done with the A7S III. I think they wanted to make this camera different to the A7S III, and that's why they've made it. Also, because like I said, it is a more robust type system to have this type of screen rather than a fold-out screen that you could potentially break. If we look at the top, you can see there's your extra dial. Like I said, just the ability to change your shooting modes and your focus modes on this dial is brilliant. I hate going back to the other cameras because they haven't got that. And everyone that shoots the A9 would know what I'm talking about. That is such a wonderful thing to have. And like I said, you've now got the better ergonomics and things like that on there as well. That's the side. That's the other side. It's got the nice flaps on it now, which the A7S III has. So that's better than the A7R4. I don't think it had those flaps from memory. Someone might be able to tell me about that. Let's just keep going down. Now, you've got pretty good networking too. Like I said, it's got in here. Let me just move this up a little bit. Can I move this? Yeah, let me just grab that. Oh, hang on. I'll have to move this for a second. Let me go out. Yeah, you've got great networking on this now. Like I said, you've also got that full-size HDMI port. You've got your microphone and headphone socket, USB-C down here. I'm not sure what that one is. What's that down there? Is that... Oh, that's your multi-interface socket here as well. And you've got all your networking as well, which is amazing, brilliant for, like I said, for sport shooters and people like that. I'm just seeing if there's anything else that it shows. No, there's nothing there really. And this is showing the new phone, if you're looking at having that as well. But I'd just be buying a Ninja V if that was me. I'd pay that. I wouldn't be paying $2,500. But I suppose if you want to use it as a phone, you're getting that aspect of it as well, and you could stream live and stuff like that. Let me just come down here. What else have we got? Do a crowdfund for one. No, Stuart. I know. Could you imagine me putting in a crowdfund, David's A1, please? Let me just come back because I think I missed something. Is it full touchscreen? Yes, it is. They've got the full touchscreen of the A7S III. The menus also are exactly the same as the A7S III, which is brilliant. I love them. The touchscreen I find really, really good now. It took me a little bit of time to get used to it, but now that I'm used to it, it is so good, and I hate going back to the previous interfaces. The touchscreen works very, very well, in fact. I really quite like it. Like I said, the only downside is the resolution. They really should have used the 2.4 million dot LCD at the back like Canon and Nikon have done, but apart from that, yes, it will. So it'll have the new menus, it'll have the touch screen that's available there as well. So yeah. What else have we got? Question from a novice: with 15 stops HDR, does the HDR start at 2.8 with the Tamron Trinity lenses? I'm not sure, but I know that the Tamrons will be good enough, exceptional on these cameras, because I use Tamron on the A7R4, and they could definitely resolve that. So you're not going to have an issue with these. But I think HDR would work great with the Tamron Trinity lenses. Question for Mike said, no flippy screen, only 10 frames per second mechanical shutter, 30 minutes record time, 8K, not good ergonomics. I don't know. I'm not that impressed for that money. Oh, interesting, Mike. Like I said, I wouldn't be using the mechanical shutter anyway. I never use it on the A9. Sony dropped a bombshell on this market. They certainly did. It was not long ago that you paid for that 12 megapixel with no video. What are we saying down here? I'm not sure what you meant by no video though, Thomas. He has at least $2,000 in gimbals behind him. I know, I am going to sell all those. Guys, look, trust me, I would die to have one of these cameras. I really would. I just can't afford it at this stage. I seriously, if there was some way I could afford to get one, I would be jumping on board and I would have had it pre-ordered. I'm not doing the usual thing of saying I'm not going to get it and then I get it. There is no way, after what's happened. I haven't worked for 12 months. There's no way, and it's only just starting up in another, my weddings start again next month. So I do actually start weddings again. But I want to build up money. I want to run my business sensibly in case if who knows what's going to happen. So I want to build up some savings again before I do something like that. To pay $10,000 at this stage, I just can't afford. So I'm not lying to you. I'm not even doing that for views or whatever and then appear on the day with the camera. It's not going to happen, guys, I promise you. But I will get it as soon as I possibly can, but it won't be this year. It'll be probably next year. And by then, hopefully, they'll be a little bit cheaper. But I am going to sell all those things, Axman. I mean, I just haven't done it because we've been in lockdown, but I am going to sell a lot of the stuff that I'm just not using. It's silly just having them sitting there, like they are. And I haven't even got my Rowan. The Rowan's out there, actually. What else? Sell some gimbals, and I know you have some cameras and lenses you aren't using. Make 3 to 4 Chiara videos. You have the money in no time. I bet you're excited, David. I am really excited about it. Like I said, even though I can't get it yet, I'm excited that people can, like Michael and the other guys that are getting it. I'm excited for you guys, and I'm excited for myself that eventually I will be getting it. And I'm excited to see what the A7 IV has, because you can guarantee this is going to have some bits that go down onto that camera as well. We'll probably switch to Nikon when they release their Prodigy Pro Body, you're saying. Stuart James said, yes, Stuart got one as well. Always someone to moan. Yeah, I know, there always is, Stuart. And congratulations, Stuart put one on order as well. Langston said, well, if it's not up to your standards, you won't need to buy one. Switching to Nikon is comical, though. Yeah, I certainly wouldn't be shooting to going to Nikon now with their money problems, that's for sure. Shinzi said, I guess sports shooters will wait till Canon the R1 release, mirrorless version, or 1DX Mark III could be groundbreaking. Are you looking forward to such rivalry? Yes, I am. I want everyone to do well, Shinzi. I hope Canon do well, and I hope Nikon do well as well. Where are we? Jimmy said, I'm a sports shooter and the A1 will be incredible. It certainly will. Langston said, I'm wondering why people would wait for the Canon that will ultimately disappoint. It's certainly something you'd have to consider after what they did the last time, though. I mean, you can't even back up to dual cards on the Canon. Tickon said, taking bets now that David has this by summer in the US. I would love to, honestly. I would love to. I just wish it allowed for, say, 25. I know, look, there's one thing I don't understand why Sony don't do that. Well, you can shoot APS-C, but then you're not shooting with the full frame look. I don't know why they don't give a low resolution RAW. I really don't. Yes, they've given for the first time where you can shoot with this lossless compression and things like that, but you know, they haven't given the ability to shoot, say, down at a 20 megapixel file size like you can with the Canons and stuff. And that would be a great feature. 24 megapixels for me sometimes is the perfect, like I've often said, it's the perfect amount of resolution for weddings. So really, you know, I wouldn't want to be shooting weddings at 50 megapixel. I just don't need to. If I had this, you're going to laugh, but I probably would shoot it at weddings in APS-C mode. That's what I would be shooting, because I would be happy with having the 22 megapixels or 23, whatever it would be. And then I'd use the occasional, you know, shot that I would think, wow, this is an impact shot that they might want to blow up to a massive size. I would go to full frame and then, you know, shoot the 50 megapixels. Like, it's got the advantage, I suppose, of cropping though, but I don't crop much at all. So I shoot a lot differently in that regard, that I shoot in camera for how I want it to be with very, very little cropping. But if you're in wildlife, things like that, to have that ability to shoot 50 megapixels and crop in is brilliant. It's like using the A7R4. Having that ability to shoot 8K video, grab stills out of there, or shoot 8K video and then crop that in would make it like you've got 4 camera angles. It would be brilliant. It really would. The record limit is only for 8K. Yes, it is. Yeah. How many people commenting about this Pro this and that have a portfolio that supports these comments? Probably very, very true, Langston. Buddy said, how are you able to shoot stills and video at the same time during a wedding? I've talked about that a lot, Buddy. I hold a gimbal in one hand and in the other hand I'm shooting with stills. So I hold my gimbal in the left hand and I use the camera on my right hand taking shots. I've discussed that before and showed images of me actually doing it. I don't think I've got, if I can find it quickly, I'll show you. Let me just check in here. I'm not sure. I think I might have saved it. If not, you could be able to go back and see, because I talk about it in other things. No, I don't think I did actually. Nope. On my Mac. What's that got? No, it's email. Sony. No, I haven't. Unfortunately, I couldn't show you. I used to show people because I had captured images that I showed me doing it, but I haven't got anything at the moment that shows that, so I can't show you that. But yeah, I hold a gimbal in one hand and the other one there, and I shoot at the same time. Then what I'll do is, because the gimbal's on a stand, I'll do what I need to do with the gimbal, put the stand down on the gimbal, and then I'll start taking photos. So I do everything all at the same time. Langston says, I'm wondering why people would wait for the Canon. Oh, that's right. I already went past that anyway. Lots of salty Canon trolls tonight. Yeah, I don't understand the hate like that. I mean, like I said, if Canon released something great too, I would be saying it's unbelievable. Trust me, if I thought there was thing, I did. I already said I hate that they've put the old screen on the back of this camera. But you have to give what's right for the camera. That look, if you're looking at this camera, it is a brilliant release. You have to say that Sony have done an unbelievable job with this camera. And look, no matter how you look at it, the haters are going to hate it because it's so good. That's what's going to happen here. No doubt about it. Like I said, if I had the money, I'd buy it in a heartbeat. What else have we got down here? Low resolution RAW is not something so easy to do without loss in quality. To make 1.4 is easy for RAW downscalings, but then you would only get 12.3. Yeah, maybe that might be it, but Canon and that do it very, very well. That's just why I don't understand why Sony won't go down that avenue as well. The A1V will be satellite based. That photographers everything all the time. Just want you to download what you want. You're saying it'll be connected by satellite based. That photographs everything. Oh, it photographs everything. Yeah, up there. Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. Langston said, okay, you are free to disagree. Oh, they're just talking to each other, I think. Not to mention running a business is entirely different than being a hobbyist. Talk about the battery. Yeah, well, the batteries is the same Z battery that's in everything else, Jazz. But like I said, I would expect the battery life to take a hit. It will definitely not be as good as the A9 II because I think the processor in this is going to be like the A7S III, which uses more power. So I would say that you're probably going to have more battery usage, but having said that, though, it still will be outstanding. It's still going to be good enough. It just might be that you have to take an extra battery. I've found with the new Z batteries, I use one battery for the day when I'm doing weddings. And when I say one battery, I usually change into the reception late in the day, actually, so I can shoot nearly all day. It might be now with this camera, if you're shooting stills only, you might end up having to use two batteries because I think the processor will use more power. If you're shooting the video aspect of it, it will definitely start to use more power, like 8K particularly. And if you're shooting things like, your 4K 60 and 120 at the high bit depths, it all really just depends on how you shoot. But it will definitely need more batteries than what you had with the A9. But I still think it's probably going to be pretty good. What else? Stuart said, who says men can't multitask? Yeah, I know. It's been so long since I've done a wedding, though, Stuart. It's probably going to kill me when I do the next one in a couple of weeks. I won't be ready. I'll probably take me a couple of days to get over it. I've got a wedding on both days on that weekend as well, so I will be really tired. I usually don't do two in a row like that, but because, we were so low on work, I've taken two in a row. It won't have the new flippy screen due to the lack of room because it has a full-size HDMI port. Well, it's in the same place as the A7S III, Stuart. So that has the flip-out screen. I don't think that's got to do with it. I think it's more to do with the fact that they want to mention this as being that sports-type camera that is built for ruggedness and for sports. You don't need that weakness to come out and break potentially off. And I think they've also wanted to make it different than the A7S III. But you know what? I'm fine with the fold-up flippy screen. It's good. But for video, I really do have to admit that I love the A7S III. That's why I would still buy it. But it does get in the way if you stick, say, if I put the Ninja V on top of the A7S III, you then can fold out the screen, but you can't flip it. And that does become a problem because it's in the same place that the A1 is. So it does, well, I think it's almost in the same place. It might be pushed a bit forward, actually. It might be closer to the screen. So you would be able to fold it out, but you definitely wouldn't be able to twist it. And you can't even twist it with the A7S III either. Wonderful camera, super expensive. Yep, it is. I can't wait to hear the 30 frames per second. I know, imagine that. It's going to sound so good. What else have we got? Michael said the FX6 signed camera cine camera is 6,500. The A1 is 6,500. Look at the specs. Man, I can't wait to pair the FX6 with this beast. I know, and you've got the same color profiles, Michael. How good is that? But you'll have to hold both of them. I love it. Joe said, I came in late. Did they mention anything about the color science? It'll definitely better. Well, they are giving you S-Cine tone, so you are getting better color science, Joe. I would also expect the JPEG colors definitely to be improved. It'll be probably similar to the A7S III, which is brilliant. It really is that much better. Going to need one of those backup rigs. Laugh aloud because the R5 is going to look droopy at the moment. Oh, God. Magnus said, why did the Sony announcement state 4K 60 and 8K have 30-minute time limits, but didn't mention the 4K 120 frames per second time limit? Do you think it can last that long with 8K? Well, they're saying it will, but who knows until it's tested? I mean, people will test it, I'm sure. I don't think we can really trust the projections from Sony, not because they lie, but because people shoot in so many different ways. That's right, they do. And remember, they've given specs about the operating temperature that this will work in. If you go outside that, now remember, if you're dealing with, say, a 35 degrees Celsius day, or say around about 90, 100 degrees Celsius, that's in the shade. That's where your temperature is measured. If you measured inside the camera or the camera body, it would be way over that. And that's something that you have to consider. Mark said, I can't see any wedding work for me until Christmas here in the UK. Well, we're only just starting. Yeah, Mark, and I've had 12 months without any. All right, I don't mind. I'll fold the old fold-out screen. Yeah, it's fine, Stuart. I mean, you work with what you've got. I mean, like I said, I would buy the A7S just to have that screen. It is brilliant for video, but it hasn't got it, so you just have to work with it. Just to add even more info, the 240 hertz viewfinder, the A1 can also use JPEG Lite. Yes, it can, and crop inside the camera. That's right, I did read that too, and it does AF track up to f22. The A7S screen was waited for, and Sony stuck it on for the fans. What else? The Jade filmmaker said someone should test how long the buffer is. I think it'll be very, very good. They did test it. I gave the figures out before the Jaded film. It was around about 160 before the buffer fills. But because you can use the new A-series cards that you can put in them, the C-Fast A-series cards, I think the buffer will clear very, very quickly. Shush, Siri. Yeah, the buffer will clear very, very quickly. I take the grain off the specs sometimes with a grain of salt too until you actually test it. I agree, Langston. Langston said, I should also add I own more Blackmagic hardware than the Sony times 2. Do you think there will be an A9 III? No. This is the A9 III. Mick said, Australian country music, laugh out loud, just reading the comments on the Angry Photographer video of the new, oh, what is he bagging it, is he? I might have to do another Angry Photographer. Oh, no, please tell me he's not bagging. That's a nutcase. How can you bag this camera, seriously? Buddy said, I'm shooting my first wedding next month. I know this has nothing to do with what you're talking about, but man, I'm nervous because I'm doing it all alone. Yeah, well, you know what? Kerry's my second shooter, and she said to me the other day she was nervous. I'm not, because I mean, I've shot so many, and Kerry will be fine once we get there. But like I said, it's 12 months between doing one. So she's a little bit nervous about it. I'm not nervous at all, but yeah, I can understand, buddy. Once you get started, you'll be fine. Just take your time. Don't rush. And then as soon as you get started, you'll forget all that and you'll be fine. Anyone know a sorcerer? I need the Sony AF in my Blackmagic 4K cameras and figure it will take some sorcery. Build that plan and it will take some stress away. Yep. There'll be an A9 III in another year. I don't think there will be IM de Brown. I think this is the A9 III. But we'll see. ML, this may be the new Sony normal. Just wait for the A1R and the A1S. Langston's giving some things. Michael said the A7S III is the best mirrorless video camera I've ever used. Oh, no, I agree. I love it, Michael. I really do. Joris said... Rex, for the video, I'm also thinking of switching to Blackmagic this year. I love the video quality on Blackmagic. Blackmagic are fantastic. If you watch some of Langston's stuff that he posts, Langston does some great work with the Blackmagic. Wow, 12 months, that's a big break. Yeah, we had 12 months without any work at all, basically, because we were all in lockdown. Rob said it would be interesting to see how the electronic shutter works with aviation, fast jets or birds in flights. I think it will work amazing, Rob. Buddy also said, thanks, I just bought two new Tamron DR10s. Oh, cool. And that's about it, guys. All right, look, if you have any questions, leave them down below. I just wanted to pop on live and talk to you about this. Hopefully there'll be some other things that we can talk about on Saturday's live. We may be able to even talk about a few more things about this or something as well if things come up. Yeah, you were lucky, Jaded Film. You're from Sydney. Melbourne, we were a lot worse off down here. We were actually in complete lockdown for 3 months. Couldn't leave the house, basically. So all my weddings got postponed till next year. Sydney was much better off. Yeah, if you have any questions, leave them down below. Apart from that, guys, I'll see you all in the next video. I'm actually really looking forward to sort of watching some of the reviews about this camera and seeing what it has to say. But looking, just to sort of summarize everything that's there, I think this is an incredible release from Sony. I think if there's two ways you can look at this. If you need two cameras, you could still probably buy a really good A9 now and say get the A7S III as a combination. If you're after a single camera that does everything, amazing video, and it will be great at stills and the most up-to-date features, I don't think you can go wrong with the A1. I think Sony really have done a fantastic job, and you guys know that if Sony do the wrong thing, I do say, and I really think that this is incredible. And like I said, if I had the money, I would pre-order this in a heartbeat, but I haven't at this stage, so hopefully next year. Hopefully, Sony, if you're listening to this, they'll send me a review unit like I had with the A9 too, because I'd love to review this for you guys. So you never know, they might be watching. So I do hope that they can send me one. I had the A9 II for a month. So yeah, I would really love to get this camera because I think this is going to be really something special. It's expensive, but you get what you pay for. And we'll leave it at that. See you all in the next video, everyone. Bye for now.